When are you starting?
I've already started recording.
Oh, that's a good start. That's a good start. And on that note, hello everybody, and welcome to the podcast. Always a good start. Keith's ruining everything already.
I like to, it's good if we have a build. You crash the car and then you get out and you're like, well, I guess we can fix it from here, right? It can only have nowhere to go but up.
So now that train wreck's out of the way, we'll go to some other train wrecks where I get to say I told you so, which I always do because I'm always right. And then we'll talk about Sony, Ubisoft, and SEGA. It's a very game-oriented one. Not all positive, but we'll start with me just saying I told you so. Starfield's been confirmed as an Xbox and PC exclusive, which think about as soon as it was announced that they were buying Microsoft, I went, that's going to happen. So I told you so.
I mean, come on.
It was obvious, I know. It's an easy win.
And I can't blame them for doing it, so.
Yeah.
But you were opposed to the sale because of that reason, weren't you, Keith?
I was, but I mean, it's just the nature of things at this point. What are we going to do? You can't even fight it.
No.
Well, I mean, perhaps there is an upside in that, the developers will be focused only on one environment because both PC and Xbox are on DirectX 12. So it's perhaps easier than having to deal with another platform with another, entirely different set of APIs. And
I sort of get that devil's advocate look, but it's not the fact that they've developed on other APIs that screws Bethesda games up. It's the fact that their engine is older than Everest and.
But isn't Starfield getting a new engine? Isn't that?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Actually, this week we also had a more prominent leak about some images showing some images of the game from an older build, but it still looks quite a bit better than the latest games they made. So and it's supposed to be, like I said, a very old build, possibly from 3 years ago. So things are looking rather promising on that count. So
it's aesthetically, yeah, they can. That's not really been the issue with their games. Like you look at Fallout 76, it looks good enough, but it's the fact that everything underneath it was broken. Just a big shambles. It's like putting a load of glass into a bag and then shoving a gerbil in there and just smashing it against the wall and expecting the gerbil to come out fine. It's not happening.
I mean, that's a good way to put it. So
that's just what happens with the games, and I still like their games, or I did up until 76.
Yeah,
but
I didn't play 76.
They really need to work on. Yeah, they need to work on. They just need to make sure they get a lot of testing done and don't rush it.
Well, yeah, hopefully Microsoft can throw a lot of Q&A at this game, because it's supposed to be, the first big game that will come out of this partnership/acquisition, and so they can't have it too buggy, I guess.
They got to get this one right, or else people are going to lose faith in that whole, like you said, the whole buyout, the partnership with it.
I don't know. I don't know about that. I don't think they'll lose faith in the partnership. I think if Bethesda get this wrong, people will just lose faith in them, because
they've tripped too many times.
Yeah, Fallout 76 was sort of even with their old games, everybody just let them go, because it's like they're such massive games and there's so much to do that you could just let it go. But then when you look at 76 and you look back and you think they've really not advanced anywhere in about a decade, just visually. the actual gameplay tends to be quite much the same.
Yeah,
So,
but I
go on.
mean, even the fact, that it's their first sci-fi setting, you're going to space. So I'm guessing it will have to be different, even in mechanics in some ways, because it's just not the same as,
Yeah,
staying.
you would hope so, but Ubisoft keep managing to release the same same open world tower climbing game, even in every single different genre. I'm half surprised they haven't got a flight sim where you climb towers.
Please don't. You have to communicate with air traffic control towers to unlock the runways in that vicinity.
But we'll get to Ubisoft later, actually. But yeah, I think that's easy pickings. I told you so. We all knew it was coming. It's disappointing, but it's for PlayStation owners. But you don't spend $7 billion on a company, and you don't take over a massive company like that and not keep their games to yourself.
Very true.
Yeah.
Yeah. And on the counterattack by Sony, not long after it was announced, I'll let you talk about this, Alessio.
Yeah, we've also had some news from Sony this week. Basically, they confirmed they have quite a lot of games in development for the PS5 from first-party studios. About 25, and perhaps even more interesting is the fact that almost half of them will be new IPs.
Yeah,
And
that's
yeah, that's perhaps surprising to an extent because, of course, PlayStation has been, creating a lot of successful franchises. You'd think they'd want to continue them, but
they'll continue them, but it's a well-known fact that the launch of a new generation is the best time to launch a new IP. So it makes sense. What I like about it is that they're not all AAA games, so you've got something for everybody, hopefully.
I
yeah,
want a new
yeah.
Dead Nation.
Be interesting if they did the sort of like a strategy game. Have Sony ever released a strategy game?
That's certainly not recently.
Yeah, I can't recall. I just like I said, Dead Nation is one of those games like I loved back in the day on the PS3. Me and my wife played through it several times. I want another game like that. Co-op where you're in the same room, you can play with somebody that's next to you. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, I'm sure you'll have to pay that for that extra
I'll
team
pay it.
co-op DLC.
I'll pay it.
No, it's a good move by Sony. They know obviously that news is the fact that they're losing out on the Bethesda games, so they want to hit back with like, yeah, well, so what? We've got all these games coming out, and the simple fact is, and it always has been a fact, that Sony first-party IPs are by and far, well, they just leave Microsoft's offerings in the shade. Microsoft have got nothing compared to Sony when it comes to first-party IPs.
It's very true.
Well, I'd say, I mean, they have the IPs, especially now with all the acquisitions, but they don't have, I mean, they haven't had at least the execution, similar
Yeah.
level of execution.
They've
Even, I just mean in general, even Microsoft's best IPs, you're probably looking the best one Microsoft's got that can keep up with Sony is the Forza Horizon titles. Even Forza itself's dropped off, and I suppose you could say Halo if you include all the 5,000 books, animes, films, and everything else that people waffle on about, saying, "Oh, it's great because you can understand the game if you watch this 20,000 hours worth of content." Keith,
But
no,
yeah,
yeah, Sony, they've got a lot to offer, and new IPs, that's always a good sign. And I think we're going to see, even then, like you mentioned, they've got a lot of older IPs, so we're not going to see the end of, I don't know, Dad of Boy, God of War. We'll probably see Nathan Drake come back again. And obviously, we've got Ratchet and Clank coming.
Yeah.
Someone is excited about that.
Ratchet and Clank
Is
is
it?
good stuff. It's really good.
I love it. It's one of my favorite series. I remember it from playing it back on the PS2, and I loved it then.
You know, what alternatives do you have for Ratchet and Clank these days? I mean, the closest you really have is and outside of Mario, obviously, for platformers and such. But
Yeah.
I mean, what do we have? Crash 4. It's about time.
Well, we don't now because that studio's moved over to.
Yeah, exactly. And then you have the Super Lucky's Tales series, which I tried it. It's good for kids, because it feels hollow. But when you
Probably
play
the closest you can think of, like you said, there's Mario and Ukulele.
yeah, Ukulele's not bad. That's not a bad platformer. But it feels like it's missing something. But when you play, like when I've been playing Ratchet and Clank lately, it feels like a whole game. Like it's a well thought out. You don't feel like it doesn't feel like a clone. Everything else feels like a clone of it. And
Yeah.
it's sad because I miss those days. Because like the original Jack and Daxter's games, like I love those. Sly Cooper. Come on, give me some new ones.
Gex 3D
Gex, exactly.
Gex.
Even Spyro. I mean, in the best Spyro games that we've gotten were the remakes. It's not new and original. So I feel like we're missing. I mean, I am looking forward to Psychonauts 2 on the Xbox. Like, a lot of people are complaining about the graphics looking kind of stale, but I don't care.
As long as it's Psychonauts and more of that warped sensibilities entering some weird.
Give me more of that.
Yeah.
I think we've hit a point where we're just diluted in some things. Like one of the I don't know. I feel like platformers are missing out. I think we're missing a lot in the platforming section. Even with games like Infamous would be a good game to kind of pick back up. I know we had Second Son on the PS4, which that's I think that game got, like, I'm playing it too on my, whenever I get time. I feel like that game got, I think they messed up by shoehorning in too much gimmicky controls into the game that turned a lot of people off, because otherwise it's a very solid game. I want more of those. I want that sense of adventure and scale and discovery again. I don't need to just shoot a whole bunch more enemies.
Yeah, I can understand that. You any thoughts there, Alessio?
Oh, I mean, it's a fair point, and at the same time, I think the fact that Sony is willing to fund all these new IPs is promising, because most of their IPs, or at least their biggest IPs right now, are all in the action adventure genre. So if they are willing to do new stuff, new IPs, perhaps it has something to do with other genres, such as platformers, even.
Yeah. Well, we've seen them start, even though it's sort of action-y, Returnal. So again, they've started a new IP there. So could it go on? Days Gone again, action adventure, open world, but could we see more of it? Who knows? It's
I hope so.
Yeah, it's one of those weird things. There's a lot of areas that Sony really could branch out into, and as long as they differ it up and keep their, again, Sony tend to have really good first-party games, not including that crap Destruction Derby clone that I reviewed.
Okay. Moving on, Ubisoft, one of your favorite.
And actually, I was just going to do a good segue there, but I'm going to do it now and interrupt you. So, on the topic of platform games, let's talk about Ubisoft, who seem to have abandoned Rayman. Will we ever see him again? Because Origins was so good.
They took Rayman back out of the 3D space and put him on a platformer, a side-scrolling platformer, and you're right, it's fantastic. It's so good.
But I don't think we're going to see more of it, because what Ubisoft have recently announced is that they're going to keep on with their AAA games as always. So, like, we might see a Rayman open world game sometime soon. But other than that, we're just going to get a lot of free to play games. And you've just posted about one of them, haven't you, Alessio? The
Yeah,
Division Heartlands, or Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Wildfire Hawks Burning Down.
yeah. Basically, they previously they mentioned they wanted to do, I think, 4 or 5 AAA games per year.
Yeah.
That was their goal, and now they've basically said, maybe we don't need that many, but we are, on the other end, we are going to try to do more high quality free to play release for all franchises, because of course that lets them go into the mainstream even more. And the first one is the Division Heartland, which we got a few leaks of today, showing some gameplay and info. But yeah, so we may very well get a free to play Assassin's Creed not too long in the future.
I shudder to think what they're going to be like.
Yeah, there should be. I mean, it should be high quality free to play games, not just gacha mobile games. But yeah, it's there will be battle passes and microtransaction for sure.
Oh
It,
yeah,
it
but
feels like
that's
they've been
gonna.
working towards this for a while. Almost like it was the end game. It's like, the way their games have been over the past few years, you buy the game and then you load in and it feels like you're playing a free to play game, with the way there's so many purchasing options in more than other people, even more than EA. It's like everywhere you go, there's an option to buy something. And, you know, uh, but those are mechanics that I'm okay with in a free to play game where you get the game. It's why it doesn't bother me with like Genshin Impact. It's like they give you,
Because it is a free to play game.
yeah, it's you give it, they're giving you the game, right? And you can grind away and enjoy yourself, or you can buy your time saving mechanics.
I think the
Yeah.
reality is that Ubisoft have seen the two games that have made them so much money over the past 4 years have become free to play, and they're still incredibly successful. Rainbow Six Siege and For Honor.
Yeah,
And
look at what the
yeah,
heck is that? EA recently mentioned that most of their revenue are coming from microtransactions and mobile. So
Yeah, there is no argument that in terms of revenue, microtransactions are the biggest source for companies these days. So
does anybody
yeah.
feel like the hardcore gamer is going to start migrating away? Because gaming is huge now, right? I think we can all agree gaming is a massive, massive thing. There
Oh, yeah.
there are more casual gamers than hardcore gamers. There used to be
Of course there are.
it used to be mostly people who play games because they love games. A lot of people play games now as a pastime, not not as like a, oh, this thing I love to do. It's like literally like, I'm playing a game to pass some time. I don't know that I want to spend 60, 70 bucks on the game, but if I can get it for free and drop a few bucks every now and then. But I think that people like the three of us, who we love a good solid story, we love a good solid experience, we're probably going to find ourselves migrating more and more to the indie scene, like indie game developers. Do you think we're going to lose some of this, the
I
AAA
don't
studios focus on us?
see. I don't. I think the focus will be, if anything, the AAA studios will just utilize the big brands that they make in the the massive games, such as Ubisoft are now doing with the Division, and God knows whatever else, like you say, and possibly an Assassin's Creed down the line. So the companies will do that. They'll utilize the big names there to draw to make the hardcore gamers, well, the avid gamers go over to try the free to play as well as get new people in. Look at Call of Duty with Warzone. That's
Oh yeah,
precisely what it's all about.
I mean Warzone.
Yeah.
Call of Duty doesn't even have to sell another game in the next few years. Literally, just keep pumping out updates to Warzone.
But again,
Yeah, but
they always
they do.
will sell it because it
Mhm.
refreshes everything for the main.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
actually, it's interesting that you're saying that because following this comment, which came out of Ubisoft's conference call from Ubisoft's chief financial officer, basically, one of their analysts actually went to Twitter to clarify
Yeah.
that they were not going to take away from AAA games, premium games. They were just going to add more free-to-play games to what they've been
Okay.
doing. And actually, he pointed to Call of Duty as an example, which is to say that because obviously that's, I think, the target for any company that wants to branch out, doing a free-to-play Call of Duty, a free-to-play game like Call of Duty Warzone, and then also a AAA premium game. I think that's the future, so you have both sides covered.
Makes sense.
Yeah. I think the sad thing is that it will. It's not that it's going to cost us the AAA games that we know are coming already. It's just that some companies aren't going to be as adventurous. You'll find some going the way. I don't think Ubisoft will ever go full Activision because they've got so many brands. But you look at Activision, they've got 5 or 6 studios all working on Call of Duty in one form or another. I don't even know of any other studio that they've got working on a different game. I genuinely don't. And whereas Ubisoft, they're going to have their studios working on your Far Cry, The Division, Assassin's Creed,
Yeah.
and maybe in 2030 when Skull and Bones finally comes out, and probably
Splinter
2040 when
Is that
Beyond Good and
another
Evil
Chris
2 comes
prediction?
out.
2030.
No, 2022. They'll shove it out because they've spent so much money on it already.
Fair enough.
And they'll shove it out just to recoup some costs. And the same with Beyond Good and Evil. That must have had some money spent on it by now. Because it was announced like when I was 2 years old. I'm fairly sure the second one was announced before the first one was even thought of. Somehow, it feels like it's gone on that long. This
Right.
saga.
It's
But
gonna end
yeah,
up being like Prey by the time it comes out. It'll have nothing to do with its namesake, and nobody will recognize the game.
well, it's already got nothing to do with it because it's some bland open world swear fest,
Exactly.
according to the trailers
Free
that
to
happened
play.
before.
It'll end up being the
Uh,
freemiumest game ever.
God, it best not be. I loved the first one. I really did love it.
So did I.
But yeah, I think Ubisoft will keep some companies such as Ubisoft will keep doing their other AAA games, like they've recently done Immortals, Phoenix Rising, and such as that. They'll just carry on doing that, but they'll probably hire a few more people to work on. They'll hire a few more people, and those on the downtime between games will be making freemium games.
Doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
So what's
Um,
Sega doing? What's it? I need to know about this.
Go on, Alessio.
Well, I think they're doing fine. They've had quite a few successful releases between Atlus as well, and also the PC side, which Chris loves with Total War and stuff like that. They're finally bringing more Yakuza games to PC, and basically they're aiming to apparently revive more of their franchises, which is about overdue, since some of their franchises are so classic, and yet they haven't been used in a very long time. Virtua Fighter, or Panzer Dragoon or Crazy Taxi, Jet Set Radio, stuff like that. And so more of those revivals. And also apparently they are aiming to create a so-called super game.
Mm.
I think they mean that they want to create a massively successful AAA style game again, which they haven't done in a while, to be fair.
It's debatable because I tend to find that like the Yakuza games, sure they're not budgeted at like $40 million like your other big games, but they're just as good. If in fact they're better than most AAA games, and they are AAA by any sense of the word. In fact, AAA is such a crap definition because
It doesn't
yeah,
mean it's
it just
good.
is. No,
But I get where they're coming from.
No,
What are
but it does mean that AAA games tends to get more attention. So
Yeah. they get the
if you can
budgeting?
make
Mm.
if you can make a good game that is a AAA game which has the budget and the marketing, so you get a lot of visibility. So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
So like I get
Um,
that, but I think some people get the misinterpretation that just because it's listed as a AAA title, that it's going to be a good game or
yeah.
a great game, or that that if it's not a AAA game, it's a bad game. I guess is more so what I'm trying to say.
I mean, I imagine we're going to see. In fact, I already know for a fact because Virtua Fighter was listed in, I think it was Korea, where a version's going to be released soon on the PS4 again. So Virtua Fighter's just getting another version out in first in so long. So wouldn't be surprised because fighting games seem to be coming back slowly.
Yeah, but can we get another
Well, even
Alien Isolation?
God,
Huh.
oh, that would be good.
Well, actually,
Right?
it's about time that we finally saw something of that new FPS IP from Creative Assembly. So I hope they show something between E3 and Gamescom. Hopefully.
Well, that could be, that could be the AAA. Well, that could be one of the AAA super games. And Creative Assembly have proven themselves, well, very
Competent.
apt at doing whatever they want.
They're quite competent.
Just depends which studio it is. Though, if it's the one in Horsham here in the UK, they're the primary one. They're making some fantastic games. They've got obvious Creative Assembly over in, I think it's Bulgaria, yeah. And they're the ones that made Total War Saga Troy, which again, still a very good game, but that was their first ever major release after just supporting on other Total Wars and doing DLC. So it's going to be interesting. Obviously, they've been remastering. They've remastered Total War Rome, the first one, the one that put Total War and Creative on the map, and they keep re-releasing Yakuza. In fact, the second Judgment game was announced not that long ago as well.
Yeah, they also said that basically the action side will be on Judgment and Yakuza will be turn-based. So
Yeah, could be. Yeah, that thing to say. The studio is very good. Ryuga Gotoku studio. They make some bloody good games. So you can't. I just think it'll be interesting to see what titles, if any, they revive. I imagine we could see Virtua Fighter, especially because a version in Korea was recently sort of leaked. Even if it's just Virtua Fighter 5 again. But again, horror games are coming back, so could we see House of the Dead? And open worldy stuff, Crazy Taxi? Who knows?
yeah.
Ooh, Crazy Taxi.
Alone in the
That would be
Dark.
good. Yeah, that wasn't Sega.
No, but you did horror games. You got me thinking like, what would be
Yeah.
great?
House of the
Okay,
Dead,
okay.
I think.
Yeah.
And get Uwe Boll to come in and write the script.
I want a VR House of the Dead.
Directed by Uwe Boll.
I don't care who directs it. It would be great. It would be hilarious if he did it. But I mean, think about it. A VR House of the Dead game. Why has that not happened? Why has that not happened?
Yeah, that seems like a perfect match indeed.
Especially because House of the Dead's just always been so good. What was it? The typewriting one.
Typing of the
Oh,
Dead.
I love it.
So
So yeah, I think that's I like Sega. They're a very good. They're one of my favorite publishers, and they have some great developers under them. It'd be interesting to see what comes out of them, especially because Relic is Sega as well. So once they've done with Age of Empires 4, what could Relic be making?
good point.
But yeah, I think that's everything from me on there.
Yeah. So
So
what have
Yeah,
you
so
been?
just a general case. So what? I mean, I'm playing Total War 3 Kingdoms. That's what I'm playing recently. I think I've got. It's still a 10 out of 10 game. That's all I can say
I
about
was
it.
gonna say most people that I know that play Three Kingdoms are that even whenever it first came out, they are still playing it.
I love it.
So I hear very good things. If you're a strategy game fan and you're not playing Three Kingdoms, what are you doing with your life?
I gave it 10 out of 10. That was my first ever 10 out of 10. So
And if
that
you're still
speaks
playing it,
enough for me.
and if you're still playing it, I think that speaks to your commitment to that rating. So
Yeah.
Huh.
What are you two playing?
Alessio, you go first.
Well, okay. As I said earlier, I'm playing. Well, I finished playing Resident Evil Village, and I really liked it. I think it's kind of a medley of Resident Evil's best, but at the same time, it's not very innovative. Mechanically,
Yeah, that's a fair
it's kind
statement.
of yeah. I mean, they, pre-release, they said, we have a more open environment, which is, to an extent it's true, but not that much, I think. I think in the future they can perhaps have an even more open environment and perhaps even add a few elements to the gameplay, like, for example, stealth. I think stealth could be interesting
Oh, and especially
because,
in the way this one plays out. I'm
yeah,
with you.
so there is room for improvement for sure, but it is still a nice and interesting, entertaining ride. And of course, there are some that perhaps wanted to the full game to be like the second part, the one in House Beneviento, but I don't know if it would be nice, honestly, because I think Resident Evil is still very much tied to having weapons and shooting. It always
Yes.
was.
That
So that part is all PT like, if you want to. So it's
that part
it
of the
is very
game,
creepy. Yeah.
let's say that part is very, very good the first time you play it. But if you're like me and you're on your fourth playthrough, it's so tedious. You're just
Off.
yes.
You
I
must like it.
okay. So so everybody likes to give me crap about my love of Resident Evil, right? And my dislike
I'm not
of
going to
the
give you
longest
crap on
game
it.
in the series, the one that takes the most amount of hours to get through, being Resident Evil 4, because it's it's an extremely tedious escort mission. That's what it is. It's an extremely tedious escort mission game. Uh, the House Beneviento, that was probably my favorite part of the game the first time that I played through. But the reason is because Resident Evil 8 does a great job of switching things up constantly. The
Yeah.
gameplay, the way you play the game changes each time. So like the four different houses or lords, when you play them, each one has a completely different tactic. It's a completely different play style. When you're in the castle, it's very methodic. It's very old school Resident Evil. Um, unlocking keys and finding gate, the old school way. Then when you're in the doll house is what my wife calls it. It's very much like PT, where you're doing puzzles the whole way, and it's about environmental cues. And then when you go to Moreau, it's it's about moving in sequences. And then in the factory, it's like it's an all out, like it's almost like Doom in a way.
Yeah. Although I liked
I think it's just more that his fourth playthrough. It only came out like 5 days ago.
Well, on the first,
No, but
me and my wife played through it the first time, and total time was about 11 to 12 hours.
Yeah.
But when you complete the game, it does not count the cutscene time. So I learned that. So cutscene times aren't counted. So it was like 8 hours playthrough.
Okay.
The second time that I played through it, it was 2 hours and 45 minutes. So now I'm on a hardcore playthrough.
How is 2 hours 45 minutes not a hardcore playthrough? That's done in like 10. What? What?
No, hardcore, like the difficulty.
Okay. I'm just thinking that's the speed from that thing, 2.5 hours. Well, 2 3/4 hours.
Yeah. So now I'm
Not
trying
the
to get
longest of games, then, is it?
Huh?
Not the longest of games, then.
Well, it's just like any Resident Evil. Once you know the puzzles and you know where to go, you're not doing any of the searching. You're just like, okay, this puzzle, that puzzle, this puzzle, that puzzle, turn,
Yeah.
go, go. I mean, I finished Resident Evil 3 in just under 2 hours. Whenever I speedrun it, first time I played through it was like 10 hours. Then now I can beat it in less than 2. I like doing those speed runs with Resident Evil because it's like I got an afternoon. What can I do? Let's see how fast I can get through this, and you can kill a few hours. I don't have that time.
Did you try Mercenaries? The mod?
I finished it. I'm still trying to get double S on all of the settings. My favorite thing to do with Mercenaries is literally the M1911. I don't use shotguns, sniper rifles, mines, anything. It's straight pistols. One pistol, and I just get upgraded all the way.
Okay.
And it's pow, 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 pow.
But yeah, and other than Resident Evil, now I'm playing Mass Effect Legendary Edition. So
nice.
That's it is a good upgrade over the original version. Although there are still some remnants of a almost 15-year-old game. Because, for example, the facial animations haven't been upgraded, so they're still a bit stiff.
Nice.
But the story is still great. So that's the main drive, of course, of these games.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I'm Commander Shepard, and this is my favorite shop in the Citadel. Oh dear, I haven't played it in so long.
They're good.
And,
I think I gave away what I'm playing.
It then?
I mean, it's the thing is, if you already played the whole trilogy, perhaps even modded on PC, I'd say that you perhaps don't want to buy this full price for sure. But if you've never played the game, these games, and then absolutely do it, because it's the best way to play them. And they're 3 great games, minus the ending, and stuff like that.
Yeah,
fair enough.
So I've been playing, obviously, Resident Evil 8 a few times, and
A few times.
and Outriders. Outriders is good. I'm still quite a ways off from finishing the main story, but I still, it's such a satisfying. I don't know, like that game does. It does such a good job balancing, making you feel like a total machine, but also being vulnerable enough to not just. You have to be methodical about the gunplay, and I like that. Like the way that I play, it's almost like I have to carry a mix of weapons based on the scenario that I'm going in, because I like to play a mix of long range and up close. So I have to flip weapons quite a bit, and it does a good job making you balance that, because there is no like best all around. You can use just this one thing and you'll be good kind of deal. So
I know the gameplay is pretty good.
yeah,
Definitely.
it's engaging enough to where I'm not feeling bored, and that's usually what
Fair
happens
enough.
with games like that. The boss fights are really good too.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's all for me.
Yeah, I think that's everything from me as well. I don't think of anything.
Not really.
Yeah.
Uh,
Okay. Yeah. Well, thank you for everybody for joining us, and yeah. So just keep out for all the free-to-play freemium games coming.
Premium,
That's
yay!
Yeah. Fucking hell.
Bye.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody. Yeah. See you all next week.
Later, guys.
Bye.